We won every swing state. We won the popular vote. We won everything. We won everything. You have to take a look at the map. It's almost entirely red, except there's a little blue line on each coast, and I think that's going to disappear too. We did really great, and part of it is because of our success with the military, the rebuilding of the military.
That's President Donald Trump addressing top military brass assembled from around the world at Quantico military base outside of D.C. It was presented as a morale-boosting messaging to sort of raise the esprit de corps. It ended up being an entirely partisan address, made for TV. And lo and behold, despite Trump's insisting that it's okay for them to clap.
I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very, don't laugh, you're not allowed to do that. You know what, just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want.
And the generals and admirals' decision not to applaud what was clearly a partisan and political and sort of bizarre rambling speech makes me realize that our military is in a good spot. Hi, Mediaite founding editor Colby Hall, and this was a bizarre made-for-TV moment. It started with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who basically wanted to rally the troops, or rather the military base, and flew in the 100 top generals and admirals from all around the world to give this message.
Brought to you by the warrior ethos, and we are restoring both. We are clearing out the debris, removing the distractions, clearing the way for leaders to be leaders.
Hegseth wanted to point out the new warrior ethos he wanted to instill across the military, not unlike a book that he had written.
You might say we're ending the war on warriors. I heard someone wrote a book about that.
Yes, that's him shamelessly pitching a book that he had written to top military brass. But it was Trump's messaging that was really bizarre. And before we get into that, I just want to say this would have been a reasonable meeting, I gather, but the fact that it was made for television and that the generals were assembled to be a studio audience so that Fox News took this entire thing live without interruption reveals exactly what it was about. This was a made-for-TV moment in which the generals and admirals were basically used as props as studio audience. This was performative authoritarianism at its best. And while they didn't explicitly ask for loyalty, that seemed to be the subtext. Trump said a lot of crazy stuff in this speech. Of course, he mentioned the N-word to talk about nuclear weaponry, but also said this.
Because we can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them. Can't use either of them.
He used the opportunity to make fun of Biden's auto pen and talked about the greatest paper that he uses.
It's how would you like to have your thing signed by an auto pen? You know, when I have a general and I have to sign for a general because we have beautiful paper, the gorgeous paper, I said throw a little more gold on it. They deserve it. I want the A paper, not the D paper. We used to sign a piece of garbage. I said, this man's going to be a general, right? Yeah. I don't want to use this. I want to use the big, beautiful, firm paper. I want to use the real gold writing when you talk about the position, and they're beautiful. And, but how would you like to have that where some kid sitting in the back office is having it signed with an auto pen? I thought about it, and I thought about you people first, admirals, generals.
And if that wasn't enough auto pen material, he then talked about how great his signature is.
Dude, the President of the United States signs your commission, as you know, and that commission is beautifully displayed. And I sign it. Actually, I love my signature. I really do. Everyone loves my signature.
And because he can't speak without airing some sort of grievance, of course he talked about preemptive snub he's going to get from not getting a Nobel Peace Prize.
Will you get the Nobel Prize? Absolutely not. They'll give it to some guy that didn't do a damn thing. They'll give it to a guy that wrote a book about the mind of Donald Trump and what it took to solve the wars. And he'll get the Nobel Prize will go to a writer. No, but well, let's see what happens. But it's be a big insult to our country. I will tell you that. I don't want it. I want the country to get it.
And what's a speech to military base without talking about his fifth favorite word, tariffs?
My favorite word in the English dictionary is the word tariff. And people thought that was strange. And the fake news came over and they really hit me hard on it. They said, what about love? What about religion? What about God? What about wife, family? I got killed when I said tariff is my favorite word. So I changed it. It's now my 5th favorite word. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
And to illustrate just how on top of his game is, he did the thing that every leader does, and they talk about how they can master the stairs.
So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da, 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 bop, bop, bop. He'd go down the stairs, wouldn't hold on. I said, it's great. I don't want to do it. I guess I could do it. But eventually, bad things are going to happen, and it only takes once. But he did a lousy job as president.
Yes, this was a classic bonkers, bizarre litany of partisan attacks. It's clear to me that Trump was trying to rally the troops or give a political pep rally. But what he found in return from the generals in the audience was that no pep had been rallied. In fact, the military showed great discipline by not responding at all to any of the political and partisan attacks, which is exactly what they're supposed to do. And in fact, there's a lot of room for criticism that the Trump administration, President Trump and Hegseth, brought in top military to one location and used them as props, or you could say agitprops, to promote their agenda. This is precisely what authoritarian leaders do. And while I suspect a lot of military brass are conservatives and probably agree in some respect with a lot of what Trump said, they didn't show any emotion. Again, the Poole report said, candidly, his speech was met with silence. And that's precisely what they should do, because military officials shouldn't be partisan. Now, the most bizarre thing was Trump saying that he thinks that the military could be trained by going to urban environments in the United States.
But I want to salute every service member who has helped us carry out this critical mission. It's really a very important mission. And I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military, because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city.
That's crazy. And that's not what we use our military for, to train them in urban environments that are under duress and could use help. But clearly, this is an authoritarian move. Credit to the military brass in attendance, because they remind us what a true warrior ethos looks like. Silence became the moral center of an event in a room filled with staged loyalty. Measured restraint was louder than any applause. In this authoritarian theater, loyalty, sometimes the most powerful signal, is the one that's deliberately withheld. And to that end, credit to the generals and admirals there for doing the right thing. Again, I'm Mediaite founding editor Colby Hall. Please click the like and subscribe button for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.